Hello, everyone, and welcome back to DBR on CBR. That's right, it's time for your favorite time of the week. It is time for Dragon Ball Rewatch. And if you are watching along with us, we hope you're watching along on Hulu and Crunchyroll. And if you are reading along with us, really working your brains, we hope you're reading along in the Viz Media translation of the manga. So, once again, we are your hosts. My name is Alex.
I'm Sam.
And I'm John, and we're going into episode 25, Danger from Above, which is a really cool name. Japan got this August 13th, 1986, and Americans first saw it September 21st, 2001, because we're still being shown daily for the summer season. Adapting 3 chapters, the name of the game is Namu, or the game is Nam, taking the air and the final match, but only like the first page of that last chapter.
Yeah.
And we're at our sort of last semi-final. It's Goku versus Nam.
Voiced by Jerry Jewell.
Which is its own thing, but for those of you who recognize the name, Jerry Jewell has been with Funimation for an extremely long time. One of his biggest roles is Viktor Nikiforov in Yuri on Ice. He's Principal Nezu. He's Suzuka in Yu Yu Hakusho. For those of you who grew up on Yu Yu Hakusho as well, you know his voice. He's been around.
And he does make, we had talked about it a couple weeks ago, but he really does. Nam is the noblest fighter that made it to the actual tournament past the preliminaries. And this is actually one of my favorite fights in in this initial tournament, because no gags, not really, just straight up fighting and jumping really high in the air for reasons.
Dragon Ball's first aerial battle.
Yeah, that's true.
Which is trailblazing, except later on everyone will be flying, not just jumping really high.
Yeah.
I do have to point out, this is the fight where I think Kabuki time is very much in play, because there's a whole solid minute where Goku is knocked out in this fight and nobody starts counting. Nobody starts.
I mean, there's also the point where we get to Goku's sort of mental pattern of him going, I need to think of a move. I need to do this. It's fun going into Goku's head. It works. We say no gags, but I do think there is quite a bit of comedy mind from Nam's tragic backstory and then Goku's head empty. Where you sort of have him do his big thing of I must fight for my village, for my people. And then Goku's like, I should come up with a move. I should punch this guy.
Yeah.
Goku just has Baby Shark on live stream in his head.
Well, scrambled egg.
Alex had made the observation that Saiyans are able to observe something just once and then just do it. And that's how the fight starts. He's like, oh, that was a really cool move that Jackie Chun did with the after image. Let's start with that. Immediate.
And Goku lets out a little giggle when he does it. It makes him like a little Terminator. It's like, oh, you could see why people were scared of the Saiyans if they're pulling stuff like this up on the regular.
This is such a continued thing, and I don't see enough people talking about it, where the Saiyans are basically just the Uchiha. Goku does it all the time. He's constantly stealing moves, but we see Vegeta do it with the Destructo Disc. We see pretty much every Saiyan character at some point is copying something and just pulling a full Kakashi. And I love that it took 30 years for me to figure that out.
Yeah, I mean, and John, if I remember correctly, your reading of the power levels that with the Tree of Might
with the movie booklet,
places Nam as one of the strongest, if not the strongest fighters.
Nam is, I believe, second after Roshi.
Okay,
but Roshi is, to be fair, third after Roshi, because Roshi is 136, I recall. Roshi's so far ahead of everyone else. I think Nam is 100, or just 110. Then Bacterian is 100. The Bacterian's the outlier.
Which, well done, Nam, for
based on his jumping alone, that's got to be something. He goes through cloud level to what would need an oxygen tank. So
Nam's got mad ups, and
basketball was his calling.
Really was. Either that or high jump, provided his appendages don't get hit by the bar.
Oh God. Just so upsetting.
Olympic jokes aside. He also lands on with his wrists crossed, which kids don't do that.
That is both and the most brutal way of doing. That move is so horrific. Like, no
Goku's
wonder he
trachea
uses
is
it.
shattered. His trachea is shattered.
Yeah. It's fun that you have Goku get up and start coughing. Like, it does. Again, they've done a really good job in these last couple of episodes of showing off that these moves, while they may be wacky, are painful to take. Like, Krillin's neck chop is clearly a big thing.
Yeah.
This move, Goku is feeling effects from it. This isn't like sort of other tournament arcs where, oh, you can take 5 punches to the face and have a lovely time. If Nam lands on you, you are going to suffer.
Yeah.
Also, like, it's probably the hardest Goku's ever been hit in his entire life up until this point.
Oh, by far, like,
Yeah.
like
He's
this
out for
nearly
almost the
knocked him
full.
out.
Yeah, it's
Nom hits harder than a gun, just straight up.
yeah. When he's got that much gravity, when he's, moving at however many, 7.28 meters per second squared for however far.
And what Nam, Nam, he's thin, but he's still got to weigh 140, 150 at least. That's
Yeah.
a lot of force coming down on a child.
Yes.
Yeah, he's pulling at least a G or two as he's like landing firmly into Goku's busted trachea.
Oh, so
But this fight, I mean, it's like the Goku fights for the most, like, a lot of the other fights in this tournament are gaggy, but whenever Goku steps up, you could make the argument that the Monster Beast Giran fight is kind of gaggy, but this one is really, and with the fight that follows this is just straight up like there are jokes, but it's like, yo, we're just gonna like fight. Let's go. I love this. I love this episode. And
so well done.
I also love that it kind of offers Roshi his alibi to finally fool Yamcha, who's apparently also like colorblind.
Apparently.
What I love that because at the end he basically pays Nam to go dress up as me, but he's in the turtle shell, which he wasn't wearing. He was wearing the black zoot suit when we arrived, so it does mean he does pack 2 outfits, which good for Roshi. But it also means that it's kind of weird that we had that last time where everyone's like, "Oh, Master Roshi's really famous," and then Goku's talking about the turtle shells, and then no one notices Nam and no one reacts to him. You'd think that someone would bring it up if he's this famous. Like, hey, isn't that the dude who always wears turtle shells around the place?
Shouldn't we notice that guy?
Yeah, that's a turtle hermit, right? You can tell by the turtle shell.
He is turtly for the Turtle Club.
Yeah,
His
turtle
his
power.
carapace is keeping him safe. I do want to talk about Nam because we talked about it a little bit earlier on in a couple episodes ago, where Nam kind of is starting the archetype of the more serious fighters in these tournaments because they still kind of have their goofy characters, but there's always at least one dude who's there for a reason, and Nam is kind of giving us the DNA for who those characters are going to end up being because there is still commonality between a character like Nam and like Tien, or even talking about Piccolo, not King Piccolo, Piccolo Jr. later when he starts off serious and then goes full cackling evil afterwards. But yeah, it's fun watching Nam and Goku fight because they are in 2 different anime, and I think that that's kind of the best part. Nam is here for a really serious reason, and Goku's here for shits and giggles.
He's almost drawn differently too. He's like, why are you like, you're not animated like the rest of us?
He has a very different style in how they approach set pieces involving him, even how they approach his flashbacks. It's a much more grounded, much more angular style, which does really help convey that Nam is here for serious business, even though Goku is here because brain scrambled egg.
I do think the setup that we get here, and it stays in the manga with Roshi basically being like, hey, water is like free here. Just load up what you need and go. In a way, it sets up a filler episode that we're about to get in, like, I want to say like 5 episodes that I never particularly cared for too much. But maybe rewatching it on Dragon Ball Rewatch, I'll change my mind. But in the manga, he just, Roshi saves the day. And And I like that. I like that
Yeah.
that Roshi pays it forward in the and I guess he still does the anime here.
It is kind of a shame that filler. I'm with you on that filler episode. It's not one of the best, but I really like the casual world building of Roshi and the well. Roshi and Nam and the well, where Nam's like, oh, there isn't money trading here, and Roshi's like, yeah, no, the water's prevalent here. It's free. It really does a nice job in a moment of just sort of reminding you that there is a world beyond this, and Dragon Ball's done really well at this kind of very soft world building, where you do get this hint of the world at the moment isn't at this tournament. There are other people having their own lives, and it makes everything feel bigger. And I really appreciate that. And it does give this anything can happen feeling, which is very hard to capture in a way that kind of balances that. There definitely is a story here, and there are definitely rules we are following. But at the same time, there is that always that chance something else could happen. And that's a very hard balance to strike, but they do it very well.
I also really like that moment because even though Jerry Jules' accent, we do need to acknowledge that that is a thing. But there is some very good voice acting coming here with Roshi and Nam. Like they are doing a very good job of conveying this sort of like this guy who is still an older mentor trying to help people out, and Nam isn't over the top about it. He isn't having a major reaction. It feels like you said, John, this feels so grounded and so like genuine. And not that other parts of Dragon Ball aren't, but this is just so oddly real for Dragon Ball that I really just appreciate it.
There's a lovely touch when Roshi starts talking to Nam, and that he drops his voice a little bit, and it does give it this whole the adults are talking vibe. Like Roshi is who he is, but he very much understands. Like this is a rare chance where he's talking to sort of another adult he respects. Because really, the only other sort of adult figure we know he has a relationship with is Turtle. He's lived recently with Goku and Krillin, who are children who are under his care, and he has to sort of play to them. And Launch, who is an adult technically, but she's definitely not an adult who understands Roshi's world. She's definitely someone coming in. Nam, you get the feeling that, yeah, Nam is someone Roshi has this respect for, and he's like, yeah, I'm dropping my sort of voice, I'm dropping all my mannerisms here because we're having a heart-to-heart. Though there is the creepiest line reading pretty soon after this with, minds are just like books, Nam. They're easy to read if you know how. Which, Roshi, do not word it like that. Oh, my God.
That line was so Doctor Doom. Like, if you had Victor Von Doom say that line, perfect.
It's Roshi, what thoughts are you reading? Are you reading Bulma's thoughts about going to change? Because these episodes are the Roshi powers we'll never see again until Super episodes. but for good reason, because that line reading was creepy.
Sure. I mean, it's also like Nam is one of the few characters. A lot of the characters, the ancillary characters that get introduced in this tournament are easy to root against. It's easy to root against Bacterian. It's easy to root against Monster Beast Kieran. It's harder to root against Nam. And like that one beautiful moment when the fight's done, and the first thing he does is bend over and shake Goku's hand for the good match. That's a great Nam moment. That's a great Dragon Ball moment right there.
And I think it builds on what we'll get to with Z a little bit. And something that said we see it in a lot of old kung fu films and a lot of old Japanese literature has it, of the inherent tragedy of being a soldier. In that, if you have to fight, you've already kind of lost the spiritual battle, because you are in even if you're the best fighter in the world, you're still a fighter. And that guarantees you're not going to have a happy ending. And Nam gets one here, but it still plays into that thing. He's forced to fight this kid and put it all on the line. It's not a happy situation, even if it is still, we're still Dragon Ball, we're still an anime for kids with lots of comedy moments. But it's still, I love the fact there is that kind of emotional realness that I really appreciate. Because, kids, I think we don't accept, they can understand things a lot more. I think this is almost a moral lesson in a way, kind of being like, hey, this is, Nam's doing a good thing here and being this community-minded guy. And hey, maybe he shouldn't be in this situation. It definitely, I could see this raising conversations between parents and their children.
Yeah, like the other thing too, noticing about Nam is that he there are parts in the fight where internally, when he thinks he is going to like really hurt Goku, he does he does apologize. He is very much, he's not here for the thrill of the fight. He's here for necessity, and I think that that is such a good setup against a character like Goku, who even here he's getting his first taste for like, ooh, there's always someone stronger. There's always a benchmark to achieve. Whereas Nam almost feels shockingly more modern because, you know, shown in anime for a very long time, it's like, I want to be the king of the pirates. I want to be the best fighter. I want to be this, and that. And then that started changing more recently with things like Demon Slayer, where Tanjiro doesn't really want to be a demon slayer. He's forced to be a demon slayer. And
My
there's something
Hero Academia.
yeah, like there's something very compelling about that character, especially when you put them against the I want to be the very best guy. And not Nam people, I know that people are going to dismiss it because of the accent, but Nam is really just a genuinely great character.
And I think that plays into his moves again as well. We mentioned, like last episode, I mentioned Roshi going against Krillin. He's going for that quick knockout. Same with Nam. He's a very brutal fighter, but he isn't playing with Goku. He isn't like using gum or dodging and then doing weird hits. He's very much, I have to knock this kid out. It's going to hurt, but I'm going to do it in the way that's just one quick blow if I can. I'm not going to like break his arm or something like that. You know, I'm not going to go for a submission. I'm going to just knock him out and be done with this. It's very cool. It's a very nice moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
And even though he does, unfortunately, I have to say, go to the Prometheus school of running away from things, which,
Yep.
nah, you're in three-dimensional. Basically, Goku starts spinning for the Goku Tornado, a move they need to bring that back. That needs to be super. It just needs to be the Goku Tornado continually. But yeah, he decides to run away rather than stepping left or right, which, nah, 3D space, man. 3D space.
3D space. Since we're talking about character stuff a little bit, I do want to talk a little bit about the character stuff with Roshi, because we were talking about him dropping some of his shtick and all that, and I love the little speech he gives to Nam about why he needs to kick Goku's butt. Like that in that little speech, you see who Goku is going to be for the rest of his life. Because when Master Roshi says that whole thing about if they think they're already at the pinnacle of the sport, if they think that there are no more mountains to climb, nobody who's better than them, I'm afraid they're going to get bored with it and they're going to stop trying. And Goku never gets bored with it. It never happens. And I really like that moment because it does reinforce that even though Roshi is Roshi, there is something more complex about him, and he is genuinely trying to be a good teacher here.
It's kind of amazing. We've had two big speeches from Roshi, and they have both basically laid the foundation for the entirety of Dragon Ball, the entirety of Z. His speech about helping those with who are being attacked with unnecessary force, and then this one here about always needing to be better. He sets up the entire show. Like, I don't think if you didn't have these moments, the transition to Z wouldn't have worked. Again, it was entirely accidental, but these moments are what allowed Dragon Ball to slowly do its now, looking back, hilariously wacky way of going from a Bruce Lee film to a space opera.
Oh yeah, like it starts out as a fairy tale, it becomes a martial arts story, becomes a whatever the hell the Red Ribbon Army saga is, and,
War story.
and then mixes fantasy and martial arts at the end, and then jumps ahead 5 years, and Toriyama's like, "What if I made this sci-fi?"
I am still amazed by like Roshi going back to this has been because I was always worried about Roshi moments starting this podcast off. It made me quite sad that how Roshi ends up.
Yeah.
Because here they do such a good job of making him like he's a comedy weirdo, but he's a comedy weirdo with some heart, god damn it. And I mean, part of that is because he gets sidelined and just becomes the comedy character we bring in for a quick gag. But here, like, he feels like a rounded person who is problematic and will get called out on Tumblr, but he's a dude. He has some empathy. He understands the world around him and has feelings that are beyond what's in his pants.
I mean, and I wrote an entire piece on CBR about this. One of the things I love the most about Super is it gave Roshi his mojo back.
Yeah.
You just have to hold out for, all of Z, all of GT, most of Super, and then you get
Most of Super.
it.
It's such an interesting thing because again, I was one of those kids that had Dragon Ball Z before I had Dragon Ball, and I only came back to Dragon Ball later on. And it's like you guys were saying, it's like John was saying, like, it's so weird to see Roshi so pivotal to the development of Goku specifically as a human being. And then you get him in Z and he just kind of shows up every now and then to drink a beer and tell everybody to get off his lawn a little bit.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is always going to be the downside of past creep, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean and it happens to a lot of characters in Z. A lot of them are relegated to supporting role or cameo status.
Or they
But
never show up again, like Launch.
or yeah, they completely are forgotten like Launch. But
Launch.
and that's what I love about Super. I mean, if you can even bring back Orale into the mix, then it's like, oh, you guys were cooking the entire time. I'm sorry I didn't recognize your game. And here we are.
The true longest game that is Dragon Ball.
I am
But
so excited for Daima.
I'm so excited.
For Daima. I want to see who gets highlighted other than Goku, Vegeta, and the Supreme Kai.
Everyone's favorite characters. Collect the set.
Goku, Vegeta, Supreme Kai.
just Torian was in the office with like a dartboard of all the forgotten characters, just throwing them around, and this episode could be Launch. Oh, great!
This interview was I finally had it published. I'd been sitting on this since New York Comic Con 2023. I have an interview with Akio Inoue-san, who's the head of Capsule Corp, and he finally talked about Dragon Ball Daima, and there's some juicy stuff there. It's one of the first interviews they ever did. They literally did that interview with me after they announced the existence of the show.
You heard it here first. Sam is confirming Launch for Dragon Ball Daima.
Yeah, I can't. I wish I could launch.
But I bring up one thing I like, which is something they haven't done, is how the growth back of the tail and Great Ape is being really stretched. It's the same in the manga, and this isn't like filler, but they keep waiting just long enough for you to forget because we know what's coming. But that sort of there was a good gap before the tail came back, so just enough to make you go, oh, make it a surprise. The tail's back. We've got these couple of episodes where it's being used. Goku uses it to trip someone. He uses it to trip Nam, who compares it to a snake. But it's still making you think, oh, I guess maybe it's just a thing now. They've waited just long enough for it to feel like a big shock when it comes back round. Like it does. It's kind of almost a feint to the audience. Like, oh, Goku's here. He's going to go Great Ape, surely, right now. No, we're going to wait. And you think, oh, maybe he's not. And then it's like, oh, it is. I do like the fact that the title is kind of, if you're watching at the time, this title would have been a really good tease for that tale. It's like, oh, danger from above. What, is it the moon? No, it's Nam's attack we've never seen before. But the title makes perfect sense. It's a really great way to sort of throw the audience off.
Yeah. Nam also makes the same mistake as Krellin, right? In that he's just like, I'm going to attack you with everything I got. I'm going to... If he had fought Goku would have still like housed him, but if he had fought with a little more discipline instead of just immediately doing the same attack over again, he probably could have.
I mean, that's kind of been the story of this entire tournament, because you kind of argue that's Bacterian's problem, that he repeated his move and then Krillin sort of learned it. Ranfan tried to do the same thing twice and Nam avoided it. I think the only person who didn't have that problem was Yamcha, because Yamcha just got smoked.
Pretty quick.
Yamcha didn't even get to do an attack.
Basically, Dragon Ball works on Dark Souls rules. You go into the fog gate a couple times, figure out the pattern, and then you just dodge it.
Yeah, you just have to watch your stamina meter and roll. That's it. You just
my god. Soul-style Dragon Ball game? That could be kind of sick.
I mean, it's kind of the Breakers kind of was Dead by Daylight Dragon Ball.
Yeah, you guys ever played Dragon Ball Z Sagas?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
I do kind of like how that's set up the Turtle Hermit as a unique style, though, in that the style doesn't have like its unique move, but it's all about just waiting for your opponent to mess up and then punishing them for it.
Yes.
It's the thinking man's fighting style, which is hilarious considering it's Roshi's.
It's right there. It's right there in the animal metaphor. You turtle up and then you strike. You know, it's compared to the Crane style that we see in about 3 years, and the Demon style that we see immediately thereafter. And yeah, we're getting some martial arts training here. We're getting some schooling.
We're
It,
learning the ways of the turtle.
Yes. Yeah.
I think the other thing I really enjoy about the Nam and Goku fight, just really quick, is that Goku is having a blasty blast. Even when he's hurt, even when he's like getting smacked around a little bit, he's genuinely having a great time. Like he is enjoying himself. He is really learning. He's like he's having a blast, and Nam is not. Nam is very clearly not having the best time.
He's hanging
And
on for his life.
yeah, he's hanging on for dear life. And it's so fun because again, this is another thread that's going to follow Goku for a while. Goku is always having, we even see it in the Frieza fight later when he's just like, this isn't fun for me anymore. I'm good. Peace. Like that's really what Goku's here for a good time.
Yeah, I mean, he's straight
Also,
up.
a long time technically.
Yeah, yeah, longer than anybody else if GT is to be believed.
I do think that one thing this does again with him sort of giggling before doing the after image, and it does give you this hint of Goku being quite scary.
Yeah.
Like it's especially when you compare him with Nam, who's like, I'm fighting for this reason, and you just have this like giggling gremlin who can in 1 minute pull off to teleport himself around. It would pay off. It would make sense with the Saiyan saga when that comes in. Because you do sort of see these moments and go, yeah, you can see why everyone was terrified of the Saiyans if this was their kids.
Yeah,
Like,
Yeah.
and he's one of the lower energy ones.
yeah,
Yeah.
like this is the low end of Saiyans. They don't really build on it, but Goku sort of nonchalance is quite scary when you know what his actual story is.
Yeah, it's been a wild tournament so far, but as we're approaching the end of the episode, guys. So what are some final thoughts we have going?
Still one of my favorite fights so far in the series. Nam's a great character, and we're about to finally get the payoff to the tournament saga, guys. We're like right here at the if you're collecting like the Funimation seasons that they divided, we're getting close to the end of season one. So yeah, we're almost there.
Yeah, no, this has been a really fun tournament. It's been amazing how it's been able to keep itself fresh. This is a great episode, but it still feels different to the other ones while sort of having this cohesive overall story of Goku's journey. It's really nice. Again, this is just a really enjoyable episode, which touched on a lot of nice topics, and it said we're building up to that big final Goku Jackie Chun match in a way that I think is going to pay off. There's a lot of emotional build up here.
Yeah, it's fun because this tournament arc is kind of the granddaddy of tournament arcs for shonen anime going forward. This is where a lot of that DNA starts getting built up, and it's fun. I really like it. I love all the character interactions. I think a lot of good character work happened in this episode, and I'm so excited to watch the big dogs finally fight. But if you want to catch the big dogs finally fight and you want to discuss it with us, you're going to have to tune in next week for DBR on CBR. That's right. This has been Dragon Ball Rewatch. And as long as you're watching along with us, make sure you're watching along on Hulu and Crunchyroll. And if you're reading along with us, make sure you're reading in the official Viz Media translation. We have been your hosts. My name is Alex.
I'm Sam.
And I'm John.
And we'll see you next time on Dragon Ball. Bye.